Hey, buddy. You don't waste time, do you?
I try not to.
Well, you need help?
Sure.
Would you like to tell us what the hell that was all about?
I don't like goodbyes.
Kind of the point of a goodbye party, John. Went to a certain amount of trouble, you know. Could at least stayed a few minutes. Huh? Eating some of the food we so feverishly prepared.
I apologize, Harry.
Why are you moving so quickly? You only resigned a couple of days ago.
Is George taking over for you?
George or Trimble, has the dean made up his mind?
He hasn't called.
My God. Well, what is this? It looks like a Van Gogh, but I've never seen it before.
Is that an original, John?
No, it's just a gift someone gave me.
Still, it's a superb copy. Contemporaneous, I think. May I take a closer look?
Please, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same stretcher as Van Gogh used.
Yeah, there's writing on the back. It's in French.
Oh, to my friend Jacques Bourne. Wonder who that was.
Someone he knew, I guess.
Brilliant deduction, Sherlock.
Surely you'll have this looked at, appraised.
Well, maybe sometime, but I, wouldn't really want money for it. That does it. Put that stuff in the kitchen?
No, I'm gonna put it in the bathroom, John.
So you're leaving good old We Teach You. Rather suddenly, you must admit. Truth time, John. Is there a problem? No. Oh, come on. You know we want to help.
That's appreciated, but really, there's no problem.
Well, now I am curious. Where are you going?
Giving up tenure.
A decade of professorship? In line to chair the department? And you don't know where you're going?
Call it cabin fever. After a while, I get itchy feet. I've done this before.
Oh, no. You're too young to have done this before.
And he hasn't aged a day in 10 years. Every woman on the faculty would give anything to have that secret.
Like this, maybe?
What is that?
It's a bird with a parrot beak. Inclined chisel point, probably early Magdalenian.
May I see that?
Sure.
Yes, indeed, that's what it is.
What's a burn?
A burn is a flint tool for grooving wood and bone, antlers especially, to make spear and harpoon points. Magdalenians weren't noted for flint work, so this is a very nice specimen.
Okay. What's a Magdalenian?
A later Cro-Magnon, without getting technical. It's the final culture of the Upper Paleolithic. Stones could speak, eh? So where'd you get that, John?
Believe it or not, from a thrift shop. A quarter.
You lucky dog. Me, I gotta go digging for this kind of stuff. Can I,
Yeah.
There is something I'm tempted to tell you, I think. I've never done this before, and I wonder how it would pan out. I wonder if I could ask you a silly question.
Oh, John, we're teachers. We answer silly questions all the time.
Hey.
What if a man from the Upper Paleolithic survived until the present day?
What do you mean, survived? Never died?
Yes. What would he be like?
Oh, I know some guys. You ever been to the Ozarks?
It's an interesting idea. What, are you working on a science fiction story?
Say I am. What would he be like?
Pretty tired.
Well, seriously, as Art's book title suggests, he might be like any of us.
Dan, a caveman?
Well, there's no anatomical difference between, say, a Cro-Magnon and us.
Except that as a rule, we've grown taller.
What's a selective advantage of height?
Better to see predators in tall grass, my dear.
Naturally, tall and skinny radiates heat more effectively in warmer climates.
Yeah, and as for Neanderthals, I mean, we've all seen apish people. I mean, that strain's still with us.
But he'd be a caveman.
No, he wouldn't. John's hypothetical man would have lived through 140 centuries.
Yeah, roughly.
And changed with every one of them. I mean, assuming normal intelligence. Well, we think men of the Upper Paleolithic were as intelligent as we are. They just didn't know as much. John's man would have learned as the race learned. In fact, if he had an inquiring mind, his knowledge might be astonishing. If you do write that, let me have a look at it. I'm sure you'll make some anthropological boners.
I had a chance to sail with Columbus, only I'm not the adventurous type.
What?
I was pretty sure the Earth was round, but At that point, I still thought he might fall off an edge someplace. Pretend it's science fiction. Figure it out.
Okay, a very old Cro-Magnon living until the present. All right, Spock, I'll play your little game. What do you want? What's the punchline?
Every 10 years or so, when people start to notice I don't age, I move on.
That's very good. That's very quick, John. I want to read that story when you're done.
You want more?
Oh, yeah, by all means. This is great. All right, now, so you think that you are a Cro-Magnon?
Well, I didn't learn it in school. It's my best guess, based on archaeological data, maps, anthropological research. Since Mesopotamia, I've got the last 4,000 years straight.
Well, you're ahead of most people, so please go on.
Well, you know the background stuff, so I'll make it brief. In what I call my first lifetime, I aged to about 35. What you see. I ended up leading my group. They saw me as magical. I didn't even have to fight for it. Then fear came, and they chased me away. And they thought that I was stealing their lives away to stay young.
The prehistoric origin of the vampire myth. That is good.
First 1,000 years, I didn't know up from sideways.
How do you know the first 1,000 years?
An informed guess, based on what I've learned in my memories.
Most people can scarcely remember their childhood, but you have memories of that time.
Like yours, selective. You know, the high points, the low points, traumas, they stick in the mind forever. Put down at 3 or 35, you still feel a twinge.
Go on.
I kept getting chased because I wouldn't die. So I got the hang of joining new groups I found. I also got the idea of periodically moving on. We were semi-nomadic, of course, following the weather and the game we hunted. The first 2,000 years were cold. We learned it was warmer at lower elevations. Late glacial period, I assume.
What was the terrain like?
Mountainous. Vast plains to the west.
West. That was something you learned in school.
Towards the setting sun. I suspect I saw the British Isles from what is now the French coast. Huge mountains on the other side of an enormous deep valley that was shadowed by the setting sun. This is before they were separated from the continent by rising seas as glaciers melted.
That happened?
Yes, the end of the Pleistocene. So far, what he says fits.
Oh, yeah, into any textbook.
And that's where I found it. How can I have knowledgeable recall if I didn't have knowledge? It's all retrospective. All I can do is integrate my recollections with modern findings.
Bodies.
Well, what's the point?
What about oceans?
Didn't see them till much later.
So how would you know an ocean from a lake?
Big waves. Something else I can only surmise in retrospect.
Were you curious about where it all came from?
We would look up at the sky and wonder, there's got to be some big guys up there. And what else made all this down here? At first I thought there was something wrong with me. Maybe I was a bad guy for not dying. Then I began to wonder if I was cursed or perhaps blessed. And I thought maybe I had a mission.
You still think you do? God works in mysterious ways.
I think it just happened.
That Van Gogh.
Oh, he gave it to me. I was Jacques Bourne at the time, a pig farmer.
A pig farmer?
I like to work with my hands. He would come out to the place, paint, and we talked about capturing nature in art. Turner, Cezanne, Pizarro.
Oh, the Nolde landscapes.
Not in Van Gogh's time.
Oh.
He would have loved them, though.
Yes.
And now you're moving on.
As Edith said, there's talk of my not aging. When that happens, I move on.
Well, it might make sense to set up your next identity, your next 10 years, and then just drop into it.
I've done that a few times, even passed as my own son. Oh, you're an engineer, too. You're Ben's son. He was a good man. Saves trouble with credentials and references. On the other hand, I've been busted a few times. Spent a year in jail, Belgium, 1862. I won't forget that. For faking a government application.
When did you come to America?
1890, right after Van Gogh's death, with some French immigrants. Moving on. Remember, it's one man, one place at a time. My solitary viewpoint of a world I knew almost nothing about.
Well, let's talk about what you say you do know about. Historical times.
Don't encourage him.
Edith.
Next few thousand years, it got warmer.
A few thousand years. See, now, I know you're guessing.
You can't get there from here, Hart.
Well then, pray continue.
We hunted reindeer, mammoths.
Bison, horses. The game retreated northward as the climate changed. You got the idea of growing food rather than gathering it, raising animals rather than hunting them. Am I getting warm here? I bet I am. Lakeside living becomes commonplace, fishing, fouling. Come on! John, this is out of any textbook.
Even yours. You got most of it right. Eventually I headed to the east. I'd grown curious about the world. I'd gotten the hang of going it alone, learning how to fit in when I wanted to.
East. Towards the rising sun.
Yes. I thought it might be warmer there. That's when I saw an ocean. Mediterranean, probably. It was around the beginning of the Bronze Age. So I followed the trade routes from the east. Copper, tin, learning languages as I went. Everywhere. Creation, myths, new gods. So many, so different. I finally realized that it was probably all hogwash. So I was Sumerian for 2,000 years. Then finally Babylonian, under Hammurabi, great man. And I sailed as a Phoenician for a time. See, moving on had been easier as a hunter-gatherer. Difficult when villages emerged. Tougher still in city-states where authority was centralized. Strangers were suspect. It seemed as though I was always moving on. I learned some new tricks. Even faked my death a couple of times. I continued east to India. Luckily, at the time of the Buddha.
Luckily.
Most extraordinary man I've ever known. He taught me things I'd never thought about before.
You studied with the Buddha?
Until he died. He knew there was something different about me. I never told him.
This is fascinating. I almost wish it were true.
John! I'm glad I caught you. Someone mentioned that you were leaving
Called
today?
you, told you that I've lost it. Glad you're here. Things are going in unexpected directions.
Yes, so I hear. As a physician, I'm curious. In this enormous lifetime you describe, have you ever been ill?
Sure, as much as anyone.
Seriously ill?
Sometime.
Of what? Do you know?
In prehistory, I can't tell you. Maybe pneumonia once or twice. Last few hundred years, I've gotten over typhoid, yellow fever, smallpox. I survived with the Black Plague.
Bubonic? Well, that's terrible.
More so than history describes.
And smallpox. But you're not scarred.
I don't scar.
No, John, that is not possible.
Yeah, please, let's take John's story at face value and explore it from that perspective. If he doesn't scar, it's no stranger than the rest of it.
John, would you please stop by my lab before you take off? Suffer a few tests from your friendly neighborhood biologist.
I'm leery of labs. Afraid I might go in and stay for 1,000 years while cigarette-smoking men try to figure me out.
Medical tests might be a way of proving what you say.
I don't want to prove it.
So you're telling us this, the yarn of the century, and you don't care if we believe it or not?
I guess I shouldn't have expected you to. You're not as crazy as you think I...
All right, a guy with your mind, you would have studied a great deal.
I have 10 degrees, including all of yours. Except yours, Will.
That makes me feel a trifle Lilliputian.
That's over the span of 170 years. I got my biology degree at Oxford in 1840. So I'm a little behind the times. The same in other areas. I can't keep up with the new stuff that comes along. No one can. Not even in their specialty.
So much for the myth of the super-wise, all-knowing immortal.
I see your point, John. No matter how long a man lives, he can't be in advance of his times. He can't know more than the best of the race knows, if that. I mean, when the world learned it was round, you learned it.
It took some time. News traveled slowly before communications were fancy. There were social obstacles, preconceptions, screams from the church.
10 doctorates. That's impressive, John. Did you teach them?
Son, you might have all done the same. Living 14,000 years didn't make me a genius. I just had time.
Whether I believe it or not is of no importance. We will die. You will live. Will you come to my funeral, John?
Hey, Will.
You've gone too far. John didn't ask to be what he is.
And we did not ask to hear about it. But if it were true, is there one among us who would not feel envy? Even perhaps a touch of hatred? You told us of yourself, John. Can you imagine how we feel?
I never thought of that.
Since you may not die, while we most assuredly will, there must be a reason for that, no? Perhaps you are an expert.
That's it, Mr. Oldman. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
Or are you a vampire, John? Even an unknowing one? Do you stand alive and tall in a graveyard that you helped to fill?
That's going too far.
Bored, perhaps lonely because your heart cannot keep its treasures. Is that what you're doing? Have you led a wrongful life? Well, then, perhaps it is time to die.
Oh, wait a minute. No, look, I don't know what John is doing, but I sure as hell don't like what you're doing. Now, you give me that gun or I'm gonna break your goddamn arm.
Well, you sound like our football coach, Dan. What do you think, John? A shot to the arm? Perhaps we could watch it heal. A bullet in the head. What exactly will happen? I have papers to correct. As much as I dislike that job, it will be preferable to this. I leave you with it.
Jesus Christ. What the hell was that all about?
Where'd you get a gun?
We had you on the ropes, John. You're really so damn smart.
It's not like Will.
Mary passed away yesterday.
Who?
His wife. She had pancreatic cancer.
Will. I didn't know about Mary. I'm sorry. I can see how this might have hit you.
Please, permit me to be infantile by myself.
Will, please.